Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult video number 266. Death is not real, sort of a heartwarming video for the day, and this is based on a fairly simple observation, which is that what we call life in the observable sense is essentially materialistic. It's based on input through our ears, eyes, our sensory organs. Our ability to sense the world around us is why there is an existence that we perceive of, process, and therefore call life. Our agency within this relies upon us being able to feel and see and so forth our surroundings. For instance, if you knock out a person's sense of hearing, if they become deaf, the other senses typically become more acute. Their body compensates. There have been cases where someone's deaf, dumb, and blind, so to speak. They can't see or hear, but their tactile sense is extremely refined. If you were to knock that out, I don't know, maybe they would communicate through smell somehow. They'd communicate by passing gas, I guess. And this is sort of the way things work. If all of their senses were gone, they would almost cease to be fully self-aware as beings, in the material sense. Now, let's say that the world is entirely materialistic. The hardcore atheist, irreligious, anti-theistic crowd is right. There is nothing after death, you simply cease to be. Upon you dying and ceasing to be, it stops almost being death except for other people that are therefore still able to perceive your corpse. What they see is they see you as dead. Well, you know, you used to have life, your brain is shut down, it's not processing things, you're not hearing or seeing and so forth, you can't taste anything, you've ceased to be, you're dead. From your perspective, though, there's a nothingness. You've ceased to exist altogether. Death doesn't really become very frightening at that point. There's no suffering. By the way, at that point, then you get into another weird sort of scenario, whether you believe in string theory and things like that or not, where, technically speaking, if you're not perceiving anything, time passes infinitely quickly from your non-existent perspective. Since you arose once, if your consciousness is neither reserved nor unique, could it then theoretically rise again at some point, and to you it would feel like mere seconds? I say yes. Even under hardline materialism, I believe in reincarnation. Not in a spiritual sense, but simply because if the self is not actually meaningful beyond experience, and the experience is gone, and therefore time sort of compacts and passes at an infinite speed, then you would arise elsewhere. In fact, you might even arise backwards in time, because time at that point almost ceases to have meaning as well. There's no perception. You've become unstuck in time, so to speak. If, meanwhile, religious individuals under any banner are correct, there's a continuation. What they argue is that the sensory faculties that create the material self is not the ultimate sort of story to be told, and that there's a level or levels higher than that, that there's a soul, a spirit, a sort of anima or something that goes beyond the mere physical. That is, that the life that is arisen is unique. If it is unique and reserved, death doesn't exist. It can't exist because you haven't died. Only the vessel, the corporeal, now stagnant vessel that carries the self is now gone. The self, now being essentially liberated from that body, sort of floats around in another realm, another dimension. It reincarnates spontaneously. It has now been given an incorruptible body for the purposes of reward or torture in some cases. And so death doesn't really exist. The corporeal vessel's gone. That doesn't matter. The spirit could be put in another corporeal vessel. It literally doesn't matter. My belief is in reincarnation. I've become ambivalent as to whether it's materialistic or spiritual in nature because I believe that it'll happen either way. I believe in non-stop eternal reincarnation, based partially on my understanding of experimental physics. So I don't believe in death. It ceases to have any particular meaning. Avoidance of pain matters, and the process of dying may not be quite very fun. It might be very painful. Maybe you get shot, you bleed out, takes you days to die or something. You die of a horrible disease. That's something to be avoided. As a pseudo-Epicurean, I believe that the highest good is to enjoy and avoid pain and be content and relaxed and happy. Death, though, being inevitable, doesn't mean that it extends beyond the moment of corporeal stagnancy. We shouldn't even call it death. We should just call it the end of the flesh, so to speak. If everything's completely materialistic, at the very least, the worst case scenario, unless there's something like hell, which I think is an abysmal belief that was dreamed up by idiots, unless I was brought about to believe in that, the worst case scenario that happens is that you simply stop existing. Well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, theoretically, assuming no reincarnation, that would have been your state for an infinite period of time before you were born. And that's the other part that I have a problem with, the highly materialistic argument. Going beyond creation of the universe, creation of existence or span or whatever, if there was an infinite length of time, like let's say that the Big Bang is a singular and unique event. There was literally nothing before. How could the infinite length of time have passed? If you draw out an infinite line, you shouldn't be able to arrive at any given point, assuming time is linear. Only if time is non-linear does it make sense that there's actually an existence at all. The same holds true for the self. If you didn't exist for an infinite span of time, either time is non-linear or you existed before. Think about how wonderful this is. You should write a book on the topic. Uplift a lot of people. Yeah, get them to stop fearing death so much. Because a lot of people, they fear death so much they don't live. It becomes a real problem. That's about all. Peace out.